Tonight, we're diving into one of the most extraordinary political stories of our time, the journey of Nicolás Maduro, from a bus driver in Venezuela's working-class neighborhoods to the presidential palace, and ultimately to his stunning capture by U.S. military forces in January 2026. It's a tale of ambition, loyalty, economic collapse, and an unprecedented international intervention. Before we go back in time together, if you're enjoying settling in for the night with a bit of history, consider hitting subscribe. And I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from right now? And what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The 23rd of November, 1962, marked the birth of Nicolás Maduro Moros in the El Valle neighborhood of Caracas, Venezuela. This was no privileged beginning. He emerged from the heart of Venezuela's working class, born into a family where political activism ran like blood through their veins. His father, Nicolás Maduro Garcia, was deeply involved in leftist politics and labor movements, instilling in his son a worldview that would shape the trajectory of an entire nation. Young Nicolás grew up in a modest two-bedroom apartment in southern Caracas, sharing the cramped space with his parents and 3 siblings. The Venezuela of Maduro's youth was a nation of stark contrasts. While oil wealth flowed through the country's economy, families like the Maduros saw little of that prosperity trickle down to their neighborhoods. His mother worked as a teacher, struggling to make ends meet, while his father engaged in union organizing. Their dinner-table conversations revolved around workers' rights, inequality, and the corruption that plagued Venezuelan society. These formative years planted seeds of deep resentment toward the elite. According to school records, young Nicolás never completed his high school education, dropping out to pursue what he saw as more immediate ways to contribute. In his late teens, Maduro found work as a bus driver for the Caracas Metro Company. But this wasn't simply a job, it was an opportunity to organize. Even though the Metro Company had officially banned unions, Maduro founded an unofficial trade union, secretly organizing drivers and other workers, holding clandestine meetings and advocating for better conditions. This early experience in grassroots organizing honed skills that would prove invaluable in his political ascent. During this period, Maduro traveled to Cuba for political training, an experience that proved transformative. There, he connected with other Latin American leftists and absorbed the principles of revolutionary socialism that Cuba's leaders promoted throughout the region. The experience showed him that radical change was possible, that workers could overthrow established orders. The Chávez Connection. Everything changed when Maduro met Hugo Chávez. The charismatic former military officer had attempted a coup in 1992 against Venezuela's government. Though the coup failed and Chávez was imprisoned, he emerged as a folk hero among Venezuela's poor and working class. Maduro recognized in Chávez a vehicle for revolutionary change he had long dreamed about. When Chávez won the presidency in 1998, promising to redistribute Venezuela's oil wealth, Maduro rode that wave into the National Assembly as an elected representative. The two men formed a bond that transcended typical political alliances. Maduro was loyal to a fault, never questioning Chávez's decisions, always ready to defend him. This absolute loyalty became Maduro's defining characteristic and his pathway to power. It was during this period that Maduro met Celia Flores, a prominent lawyer and politician. Flores, brilliant and ambitious, was herself a powerful figure in Venezuela's Chavista movement, serving as president of the National Assembly. They married in 2013, creating a power couple at the heart of Venezuela's socialist revolution. Throughout the 2000s, Maduro steadily climbed the ranks. In 2006, Chávez appointed him Minister of Foreign Affairs, thrusting Maduro onto the international stage. As foreign minister, he became Chávez's ambassador to the world, defending Venezuela's policies at the United Nations, forging closer ties with Cuba, Russia, China, and Iran. He traveled extensively, delivering fiery speeches denouncing imperialism and Western intervention. By 2012, Chávez named him vice president, the Unexpected Ascension. In 2011, Hugo Chávez revealed he had cancer. The diagnosis sent shockwaves through Venezuela. As the leader's health deteriorated, speculation intensified about succession. In October 2012, Chávez made a stunning announcement. Nicolás Maduro should succeed him. Many were surprised. Maduro lacked Chávez's charisma, military background, and commanding presence. But Chávez valued absolute loyalty above all else. On the 5th of March 2013, Hugo Chávez died. The nation plunged into mourning. Chávez had been more than a president to millions. He was a father figure, a revolutionary hero. Maduro inherited the impossible task of filling shoes far too large for any man. In the special election on the 14th of April 2013, Maduro won by just 1.5%, a razor-thin victory that exposed the movement's vulnerability without Chávez's charisma. Opposition candidate Henrique Capriles cried fraud. Maduro refused a recount, and protests turned violent. His heavy-handed response set a pattern for his presidency, the Maduro era. Decline and desperation. Where Chávez had been charismatic and inspiring, Maduro was wooden and scripted. His speeches fell flat. Critics mocked his attempts to emulate his predecessor, yet Maduro compensated with ruthless determination to hold power at any cost. The Venezuela Maduro inherited was already cracking. Years of economic mismanagement, corruption, and oil dependence had created vulnerabilities Chávez's charisma had masked. By 2016, full-blown crisis arrived. Collapsing oil prices devastated government revenues. Shops emptied of basic goods. Hospitals ran short of medicine. People lost weight from hunger. Doctors grimly documented the Maduro diet. Instead of reform, Maduro blamed an economic war waged by foreign enemies. The government printed massive amounts of currency, triggering catastrophic hyperinflation. In 2018, inflation hit 130,000%. The bolivar became worthless. People needed wheelbarrows of cash for basic necessities. Life savings evaporated. The middle class was wiped out. Venezuelans fled by the millions. By 2024, 8 million people, nearly a quarter of the population, had left, creating Latin America's largest migration crisis. Families were torn apart. Professionals became street vendors in foreign countries. The exodus represented not just economic collapse but the death of hope. Politically, Maduro grew increasingly authoritarian. When the opposition won the National Assembly in 2015, he circumvented the legislature through a packed Supreme Court. He created a new legislative body filled with loyalists. Opposition leaders were imprisoned or exiled. Independent media was shut down. Protests met tear gas and live ammunition, international pariah and criminal charges. Internationally, Maduro became isolated. After the fraudulent 2018 election, major democracies refused recognition. More than 50 countries recognized opposition leader Juan Guaidó as legitimate president in 2019, though Guaidó never actually took power. In March 2020, the U.S. Justice Department indicted Maduro and 14 officials on narco-terrorism and drug trafficking charges. Prosecutors alleged Maduro led the Cartel of the Suns, a drug trafficking organization of high-ranking officials conspiring with Colombian guerrillas to flood America with cocaine. They claimed the operation generated billions while poisoning communities. The U.S. offered a $15 million reward, one of the highest bounties ever. These allegations transformed Maduro from authoritarian leader to accused international criminal. Yet, within Venezuela, Protected by military commanders benefiting from corruption, he remained untouchable. He survived a 2018 assassination attempt when explosive-laden drones detonated during a parade. He weathered sanctions designed to cripple his finances. When Juan Guaidó declared himself interim president with U.S. support, Maduro simply refused to leave, correctly betting that recognition without force meant little. The final election. The 28th of July 2024 presidential election became Maduro's undoing. Despite modest economic stabilization, the opposition united behind Edmundo González Urrutia. Polls showed González with a commanding lead. On election day, massive turnout suggested change. The opposition collected voting machine receipts showing González won with 67%. Then the government-controlled Electoral Council announced Maduro won with 51%, providing no detailed data. The opposition published thousands of receipts contradicting official results. International observers called it the largest electoral fraud in Latin American history. When hundreds of thousands protested, security forces fired live ammunition, killing at least 25 people. Thousands were arrested. González fled to Spain. Most of the international community refused recognition, but Maduro clung to power. On the 10th of January 2025, Maduro was inaugurated in a ceremony opposition leaders and most diplomats boycotted. As he took the oath, protesters chanted for his removal. It was a hollow victory ruling a devastated country, recognized only by authoritarian regimes. Operation Absolute Resolve. Donald Trump's inauguration on the 20th of January 2025 marked a turning point. Throughout 2025, the CIA and military planners developed an unprecedented operation. They studied Maduro's movements and planned a lightning raid. On January 2 to 3, 2026, around 2 a.m., explosions rocked Caracas. Approximately 150 U.S. jets struck Venezuelan installations, blinding defenses. As bombs fell, elite special forces breached Maduro's compound. Within 30 minutes, they captured the president in his pajamas, along with his wife. By dawn, Maduro was in American custody, flying to the United States. Trump announced the success hours later. Nicolás Maduro has been captured and removed from Venezuela. The Venezuelan people are finally free. Operation Absolute Resolve succeeded beyond expectations. Venezuelan commanders, facing overwhelming firepower, chose not to resist. The Reckoning and Legacy. On the 6th of January 2026, Maduro appeared in Manhattan federal court. Gone was the confident leader from state television. In his place stood a diminished man in prison garb, flanked by DEA agents. When asked his plea to narco-terrorism and drug trafficking charges, Maduro was defiant. "I am innocent. I was captured illegally. I am a decent man. I am still the constitutional president of Venezuela." But prosecutors had years of evidence, intercepted communications, witness testimony, financial records painting a damning picture of systematic criminality. His capture sparked international debate. Many Latin American nations condemned the operation as violating sovereignty. The UN Security Council held emergency sessions. Russia and China denounced American imperialism. Legal scholars debated whether the U.S. had any right to capture a sitting president, even one accused of crimes. Within Venezuela, reactions were mixed. Millions celebrated, dancing in streets, hopeful for change, but others worried about American intervention. Trump's comments about controlling Venezuela for years and extracting oil raised concerns about replacing one authoritarianism with another. The story of Nicolás Maduro is a cautionary tale about power and corrupted ideals. The young bus driver genuinely believed in social justice, but somewhere along the path, those ideals became secondary to maintaining power at any cost. Unlike Chávez, who possessed genuine political skill, Maduro was a second-rate leader thrust into a first-rate position by loyalty rather than merit. He inherited a country with enormous potential, the world's largest oil reserves, educated population, rich resources, and transformed it into humanitarian catastrophe through mismanagement, corruption, and authoritarian excess. He will be remembered as the man who presided over Venezuela's darkest era, who drove millions into exile, who chose power over people, and who became the first sitting president captured in a U.S. military operation in over 3 decades. The bus driver from El Valle who dreamed of revolution became exactly what he claimed to oppose: a corrupt authoritarian. His chapter in history has closed, and Venezuela begins the difficult work of rebuilding from the ruins of his failed presidency.